just, you know, rushing Bastion back, trying to get them to high damage before they hit their grade 3. Because just like Zorga, Bastion has that, it has that fog hand. You think it's big, but it ain't.
All
Go
right.
for it. All right, we're going to transition over. They're going to, I think they're still cutting their decks. They haven't gotten quite yet to post mulligan. But
All right.
we'll see how this game progresses. It is going to be interesting.
Yes, yes. Now that we have the manly fight, just like in the anime. And I think that if anything, if Bastion doesn't have a strong grade 3 turn, if they go first, then I think Bruce is only gonna go up from here. I think like Bastion, if they want to assert their dominance, they have to go with the lead. But looks like Bruce is going first.
All right, so that already puts Bruce on a, I won't say advantage, but it does give it better chances as it'll get to final rush faster.
Yes, we're gonna have a manly fight. PG, of course. Don't worry, we're not gonna reenact the anime to the T, but we are reenacting the anime to a level.
All right, so I do want to point one thing out immediately. Bastion just discarded 815k guard. That can either mean the hand is nothing but grade 3s that it needs, or he has multiple enough triggers. Regardless, those 15ks are going to matter, especially against the Bruce. You're going to try to keep them in hand as long as you can. And if you're ditching them right now, it's like, what can it...
Yeah, there's a lot of mindsets going through, but it looks like Bruce is starting to lead up a little bit, showing off that steam gunner with seeing, okay, let's try and put some pressure on the man. Let's try and send in the bro to see if we get that check. But we only drive check a Brody, so
no defensive trigger, that matters.
Yeah, we have no defensive check, but now I got to deal with just oh dear. All right, so that's already 15k shield generously getting out of the hand.
I am gonna laugh. I'm not even gonna lie right now. I am going to laugh if he reveals the top card and it's an Alden, and he could have activated it. Oh, granted, he could not have activated it since he was taking damage. But regardless,
it was those double instances, Alden. What are the chances?
Probably slim.
Yep, yeah, it's the curse. The curse is back again. A quality
Bastion's 50% triggers, 50% grade 3s. So
yeah. It's like, what type of game are we playing here? We're playing 50-50. That's how it always. That's how it always trigger.
Oh, don't forget the little pepper of PGs.
Yeah. Yes. Oh yes, of course. We cannot forget our Sentinels, which is one of the only options that Bastion has a guardian besides the lovely Kokobio. All right, so let's see. How will Bruce lead in this state? Because now I realize, all right, I can start going aggressive pretty well. But
you're not wrong.
I can't
next to aggressive, this is also Bruce's weakest turn. Your grade 2 and grade 1 turns are honestly decent. You can rush. The numbers aren't too hard to get past by. But your first grade 3 turn, it does nothing. You got Twin Drive and maybe a column or two, and that's about it.
Yeah, he has to eat it. Ooh, but he has a crit to lead on. I think the only sad part about Bastion is that realizing, do I want to put him to 4 damage? Because he revealed double Alden for his rook play.
Well, apparently, I think while you are correct, double Alden is going to be very dangerous. Double Alden is also double-edged sword, ironically. Because yes, you're going to draw a lot of cards, and you're going to call a field. Well, don't have to worry about it now with that heal.
Oh yeah, that heal. That was a good cushion heal.
Correct, but to finish the point, you're going to draw a lot, but at that point, you've drawn all that you're going to draw. At that point, your hand is what it is. You're drawing off of Vanguard and drive checks, off of the turn start. You don't have, you are reliant on your deck now. You've drawn as much as you can. This, however, kind of helps. You can do one Alden now and then one Alden later and kind of fix your hand if you need to.
That's true. That's true. Bastion doesn't have the best resource recovery engine, but it can at least pump out the value for the resources that they are using. Ooh.
I will say it's always hurts having a healed trigger in Bastion just on the field. Best case scenario is behind the Vanguard, makes Vanguard 20k attacker, but outside of that, it's just hurts, and it just hurts.
Yeah, so let's see if he's gonna see what the other card you're gonna see on the other side. Oh, a double Dark Strain. Wow. All right.
Triple Darkster. Triple kill.
Let's go for it. We're getting dark, boys. This is gonna be a dark arc because this Bastion player is getting ready for a final rush turn, and
you Yeah, sorry. Bastion wants to put Bruce in a sweaty position. This is gonna be big attacks, 4 attacks.
Yeah, 4 attacks, hopefully almost guaranteed, almost guaranteed. Oh, but losing out that PG though,
Oh,
that's
that
pretty
hurts.
rough. Yeah, let's see here. All right, so Bastion's gonna be swinging in for a meaty 20K. At least, like, the Bruce player can take all the damage that he wants. Okay, maybe
Oh
not that much
no.
damage. That's a
This
crit.
is this is situations where I've had where I want my opponent to trip double triggers, and that doesn't happen because Alden stood.
All of a sudden, and he gets a plus 10K on top of that. So now you have a plus 10, plus 15, plus 17K on Alden, putting it from 13 to 30.
Jeez, not to mention he's gonna gain another 5 from his own ability again.
Oh, but Bruce gets the cushion heal. He gets a cushion heal. He goes back down to 3. Oh, that is extremely optimized. Because all that counter blast you use for Eden
I
and
think
Photobulb.
there's 2 avenues Proof can go here. This is the one of trying to guard, leave yourself a low damage so that whenever Bastion has the next turn, if you can't kill them in the next turn, you have enough damage to take attacks, you have enough hand to, guard attacks and so forth. The other avenue could have just been going to high damage and hoping, but there's one risk and then one's guarantee, and which one you gotta choose?
It's whatever play that you have to go, you have to commit to the play. There is no way that you can stop midway through and just kind of just take it back, unless there's a really justifiable reason that you would even prevent that from taking place. Because knowing that at least Bruce has already used 1 counterblast, 2 counterbllasts isn't that bad. You can at least use Eden twice, or if he has Photobulb, using Eden if it hits, and then Photobulb again.
There's another thing to know here real quick. Bastion right now only has 1 card in Soul. It's got more than enough cards to Soul Charge to use Dark Strain again, but we don't know if he has them in his hand. He can Persona Ride, get 2 cards in Soul like that. He can call the grade 3 from the start deck to put the Soul, give a grade 3 10k, get 2 cards in Soul like that. There's multiple options, but we don't know what he has in hand. Not to mention, we still do know he has another Alden in hand, which means depending on the next turn, Bruce can now try to figure out, all right, he might not be able to boost, but he could Alden. Or maybe he can boost, but he won't be able to Alden. Now, of course, if Bastion has a perfect hand and he can do both, then just sucks.
Yeah, so as we see the final rush play go through, and we see the Persona Ride on top of that. So now we see Living Proof. How will you combat the Bastion? How shall he play football? It's already post halftime. We're in the 3rd quarter.
8 cards in hand. 2 of them definitely need to come down to fill up the front row. There's 1 Eden.
Yep,
which means he's going to have
Oh, it's a 4th quarter. Yes, because it's called Final Rush for a reason.
deck. Exactly. Anywho, 6 cards possibly left in hand after he calls another card in the front row for Final Rush turn. I believe he did Persona Ride, so which means at least he has a good amount of power and a double
Double Eden isn't bad.
Pressure.
Double Eden isn't bad.
This is 4 attacks that can just kill the entire board.
Yeah. It's like ideally you want to guard the early attack so that you can take 1 damage from, like, you take 1 hit from the Eden to go to 5 damage rather than taking the hit early and then having to deal with the crit Eden that can be potentially lethal. And
you're not wrong, but at the same time, you might just try to guard everything and take a double crit Eden because you're at 3 damage with Bastion right now. 1 attack is going to put you to 4, which means the other 2 Edens, when they restand, are both going to swing for game. What can you risk? Oh, and a Jared.
Here comes Jared. All right.
I believe Proof is calculating he has enough cards in the Soul to not only do a Jared successfully, but also do the Final Rush. That Acrobat in the back row just helps.
Yep. Yeah, he's buffing up that Eden. He's buffing up the Eden.
Surprisingly, though, he buffed up the Eden that can be boosted by Acrobat. I kind of understand why, or no, I don't. He's trying to make 1 column just ginormous.
Yeah, I think he's trying to lead us and saying, like, I'm going to get rid of your board. I need to get rid of your board. And
this is gonna decide it. Like, is it? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, he's
yeah, he's trying to get rid of the columns. He's trying to get rid of skills. He's trying to get rid of.
I like what he's doing. I think he's just trying to get rid of the board. Yeah, because it's what I just said. Eden's gonna restand with double crit. If he takes the Vanguard, both Edens can kill him.
That's true.
But if he doesn't, if he guards the Vanguard, he can at least take 1 of the Edens. Like this, I like where Proof is going with this.
Yeah. Like he doesn't have to worry because the extra added incentive with the anti-intercept. It's not really going to do much with Bastion, but then again, they are going to try and make it work to say, hey, I dare you to take this Vanguard hit. I dare you.
Right, so we see he guarded with 15k shield, Soul Blast 5. He has 0 cards in Soul right now, which means if he can live next turn, if he can't kill him now and then live Bastion's turn, he's going to have to work really, really hard to kind of go back to his Soul. Granted, Acrobat is still standing, so we can see at least a minimum of 2 Soul charges. And that crit just, oh, that crit is dangerous.
Meaty crit, because now we're dealing with 2 damage across the board potentially, and depending on what our Bastion player has in hand, I'm not sure what's going to be the outcome.
I don't know if that crit was actually a good one, because Bastion's going to go to 5.
Yeah,
and that just increases the chance of hitting defensive triggers to help Eden be guarded.
Oh, and that gun.
And now Eden's double criticals are not as dangerous as they would have been.
Yeah, and that 5th damage heal. That was a cushion.
This is weird. This is weird. Not only is he still in killing range, he has a defensive. So this is kind of the best of both worlds for both players.
Yeah. Yeah, with the defensive. Yeah, this is rough. He already guarded. He has 4 cards up in hand. It's like you want to go for lethal, but you know you're out 10k power differential. So you have easy to guard. And yeah, Bastion just had the PGs. He had to throw Cockabeel to the side.
No, I didn't pay attention to the ditch for the PG, but I'm pretty sure he still has an Alden in his hand.
I think so, yeah. I saw Cockabeel ditch out for one of the PGs, and now he had the Bastion Persona ride. Okay.
Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. You have your Dark Strain. He needs 2 cards in Soul to do work. And he have 2 cards in Soul. But you have an Alden as well, but he's also Soul Blast, which means, do you have ways to Soul Charge? If not, you can only pick an Alden or a Dark Strain. So which one is it going to be here?
Oh, okay. He's going for Alden. He has the Soul Blast for it because that was the Persona ride. Yep. What grade 3 will be called?
The choice here might honestly be, let me see if I can draw into my piece that can Soul Charge me.
Yeah, he needs the Refluke. The Refluke to Soul, because we need that deadliness. Oh, he called out his Cocobail. What? Damn.
Well, a very good question is, does he run Refluke?
Yeah.
He does. Never mind. There's 4 Reflukes in the deck, and we haven't seen one. There is 4 Reflukes in the deck, and we have not seen one.
It looks like Dark Strain Dragon and Cocobail are just going to be sitting pretty, just looking over at Alden, trying to overcome it. But at least Alden still gets technically a 5k boost, because
you're not wrong. Don't underestimate a Persona Ride Alden. That is a 30k swinger, and if it restands, is a 45k swinger. Those are numbers.
Those are super numbers. Oh, and the last cushion damage did not have a defensive. That is deadly. That is extremely deadly for Bruce.
It's sad to say, like, the Vanguard is 30, the other Alden is 30, and the Alden that restands is going to be 45. These are numbers that, like, we mentioned this roughly during the Orphis match, I think, or during the Zorga match, where both Orphis and Zorga, they only had 3 swings, but they're big numbers. The reason Bastion's doing so well in tournaments is because it has the same number of swings, but a 4 swing to add to it.
Yeah, it's knowing that the majority is likely going to happen, because given all that power, and if someone's going to go in unboosted, it has to be Alden. There's barely any other cards that you want on your front row besides Alden.
Correct.
Let's see.
Proof here has just a difficult choice. What is he going to do?
Yeah, he has to someone guard the Vanguard at this rate. I wouldn't gamble on just taking the Vanguard hit if I can't take both Alden swings. I have to do somewhat of a guard power, and if I have the PG, yeah, one of the Edens is going to take it.
Well, let's look at it from a mathematical perspective. You have a Vanguard swing of 30. Let's say he doesn't rip any triggers, period. You need at least a 20k shield to guard it. Then you have another Alden, that's another 20k shield. And then you have an Alden swinging for 45 that you need a minimum of 35k shield to guard. Those numbers don't sound too bad, but when you realize what kind of hands you have, you got to have a trigger and a normal unit for one, another trigger and another normal unit, and then 2 triggers and another normal unit if you don't have PGs to guard any of them. That's right there is already 7 cards.
All the intercepting in the world can... It offers a little bit of a boost, just a little bit. But right now it's got to be crunch time. Now The team has the ball. It's a not an interception, but it is a big play. This is this is much more than a Hail Mary. This is a calculated Hail Mary that's going up against Bruce right now. Alden is your enemy star linebacker.
We mentioned this at the beginning of the game, how Bastion's one of Bastion's strategies is going to be try to kill Bruce as fast as possible before final rush. And the first turn with Grade 3, you saw the push, dark strain, big column, critical trigger. On top of that, he put Living Proof in a difficult situation. And while he did manage to get final rush turn off, it didn't kill Bastion. And now Bastion has another Grade 3 turn to swing. On top of that, it's a Persona right turn.
Right? We see a double trigger drop down for 43k shield. Patua
Free to
over.
pass.
There's a Grade 3 for them.
Oh, you hate to see it.
Another quality one. Yeah.
This is not only gonna have access to 4 attacks. This is also gonna make that Alden 40.
That is extremely you can't make this stuff up. This is Alden is now barreling down the field. This time you have both Aldens that have technically a +10 because you have the Alden that didn't stand with a 10 from the trigger, and then you have the Alden that stood with a +10 from Bastion.
Yep. This is going to be a 40 swing. I believe it might be double critical. I'm not sure if he put the crits there or not. So yeah,
he
guard
put
for 43.
good.
And now 45. This is either PG or an over trigger.
Yeah.
Here's the PG.
He got it. He survived. He survived the swing, but at what cost?
Exactly. That was the thing. Like, Proof took a lot of time to calculate. And I think the time he took to calculate wasn't because he thought he couldn't guard. It was because what could he just keep? Because now he is at, I believe, 2 cards in soul. Acrobat is going to get him to 4. He needs 1 more soul charge. Does he have it?
He needs it. Is this what Jared realized, that maybe he shouldn't have been played too soon?
Jared is a double-edged sword, unfortunately. Like, yes, he gives 10k power to something, but at a cost of 1 soul blast. And 1 soul blast doesn't sound a lot. Can matter, and we're seeing the effects of it.
Wonder what the remaining 2 cards in his hand. That's the.
It comes down to if he can soul charge, he's got a. No, never mind.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. I won't say he's fine. I think one of the things he was contemplating: can he Jared?
Oh, and not just Jared, but we're gonna see some proto bulb action involved. So it looks like okay, he wants. I think like you want to build the soul, need to build the soul. So
yep.
At least
he knows that he has to swing with Acrobat almost immediately, which means he's swinging with the smaller Eden first, then with the Acrobat. So this is a 25. Sorry, this is a 15. These are pokes.
Yeah,
these are 15, followed by 23 column soul charging 2, and then now he has a proto bulb target, so he can either soul charge the gun or soul charge the Acrobat. But there is something here, like I don't know what cards are in his soul. I might have honestly swung with proto bulb first, guarantee at least one of the good cards from your soul, because he's gonna hit 5 soul exactly, which means whatever he soul charges with proto bulb, that's also going back to hand, and there's not much. Oh no!
Soul charges over trigger and a heal.
Oh no!
Yeah, but that's the cost. That's the cost of playing football, guys. But what we saw in the trick, his 5th damage was not a trigger, so that definitely reduces capabilities. Because now we realize he called his Cocabayo, and the Cocabayo could have been a little bit more useful in his hand. Oh my goodness!
So Bastion only has 3 cards in hand, and I think he realized he needs a heal.
This is a fluke. Living Proof takes it. Yeah.
Ooh.
He managed to poke. He just never saw it. Damn. That is. Oh god.
That was crazy. Like
that literally had to be like just a crunch. You had to crunch, just making sure that okay, I don't have my Persona ride, but as long as I can hit the 5, I don't care what I soul charge. I know that I can get my hits in. And against something like Bastion, when I already know I've seen Cocabayo both discarded for cost for PG as well as being called to the field, there's not a lot of Grade 3s else or any other Cocabayos that can guard from hand. So there's a lot of momentum swings that happened that at least Bastion was not able to solidify on it.
There's a really good question here, because one card could have changed the flow of the game, but Bastion never saw it, and that was Refluke. There was 4 Reflukes left in the deck. The last one of them got 6 damage, but that could have honestly changed the game. Refluke is one of those cards that not only does it soul charge, it gives something 10k. But he could have met all his conditions. He could have a Dark Strain effect active during that turn, on top of the 10k. Like, one card could have made the difference for Bastion, but just couldn't see it.
Yeah. it's sad because hey, Bastion is not the 100% that people think that they are. Because I know that Bastion is a fierce deck, but it does have its weaknesses, and we can see it as the game progressed along. When you see that, okay, even though you had Aldens, we noticed that yes, Darkstrain wasn't able to use the skill because you want to try and optimize your plays from the get go against a game like Bruce, where they play football, but once it hits fourth quarter, I hope you're ready with some defense because they're swinging in hard.
Exactly. Another card that could have really helped Bastion, but never was just seen, was Facade. Facade is also on hit pressure, soul charge, counter charge, get all the necessary resources you want, but didn't see it.
Uh, I think that also goes with the milling capabilities too. Of course, you want to have two Aldens in play. You want to make sure that you have to account for getting one of your Aldens retired by Eden, or just being able to have a card that doesn't get retired by Eden. And then we get to see the game where, yeah, this is where one of the times where elements don't come into your favor. You don't see your overtrigger. You don't see your facade. You don't see a lot of key cards that you would have needed to get your soul charge engine online. So that board looked a lot less threatening than it did.
Yeah. It was still big numbers though. Like Proof had exactly what he needed in hand. You still gotta think he dished out, what was it, like four triggers before during the Vanguard swing, and then another 2 triggers to guard in one of the columns, and then a PG on top of it. And I believe I'm talking a little bit on my ass because I don't
Yeah,
remember
no,
the card, but I think he ditched another trigger.
I'm not sure if I saw a trigger. I only was able to see the second card that was discarded, which was the Cockabale. So it's always with the choosing. That's why people don't be too reckless as to choose what card to discard from your hand, because a lot of times people make that mistake and they realize they ended up 5k shield off because they discarded out a 15k shield instead of say 10k shield with a skill. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to learn how to defend. It's very important to learn how to do it. Compared to V format, Overdress format, it is a little bit easier to learn to guard because you're dealing with 13k Vanguards rather than 12k Vanguards, like what happened in V format. So always know your match numbers. You have your 13, your 18, your 23, your 28, your 33, your 38, your 43. Always in intervals of 5.
On
And
top of that, Overdress did bring another thing to the game. Like, it fixed the consistency of riding. Like, not
yes,
seeing your grade 1s, not seeing your grade 3s. That's gone. But with it, it brought I wouldn't say it kind of is the difficulty of knowing what to ditch. Like, you see your hand, you see all these good pieces, like, ooh, on my grade 3 turn, I'm going to really go off. But what do I discard? I feel I can. I'm going to discard a 15k trigger. And then later in the game, you're like, I wish I didn't discard that trigger.
okay, no worries. So just let me know when to transition over to Albert. Okay, no worries, no worries. So right now we're just getting word from behind the scenes about our next interview project, but at least until that time, man, it's always the card choice that we have. Because believe me, as a person that's part of Team Gradelock, realizing that there's never going to be Gradelock ever is strange. But we realize that, all right, that's one less thing we have to blame on. Even if you hit the over trigger, it's not an automatic win, it's not an automatic loss. It just propels the momentum even forward, whether the players are ready for it or not. So when it comes down to fixing up the consistency of knowing what to discard versus what to ride, I think when starting out, yes. Okay, got it. So it looks like we're getting word that we do have our interviewee that's showing up in the room shortly. So once we do get in, we'll transition over. So we are going to be interviewing WCC Albert. So I guess yeah, to word behind the scenes. Yes, please.
Let's
All
go.
right, awesome.
Albert, you can hear us, right?
Yep.
Sweet.
Everything's
All
good.
right, awesome. Philip, you want to lead this time or?
Yeah, I'm good with it because I got one big question.
All right.
Pieces, right?
Yeah, I was missing the Refluke. If I had the Refluke, I could have wiped his entire hand on that last turn. But unfortunately, the Refluke didn't show up, and I was forced to blow my last soul on Alden, which basically just crippled my turn. And then even then, I was hoping for maybe Overtrigger grade 3 to save my hand.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case. If I had CB, like since I had CB, I was hoping like instead of in my Alden, I might have had a Lepisto. That could have pushed a bit harder because then both of my front row would have restood, and that could have saved me because at the end of the day, my hand was a trigger, what's her name, Kokabio, and 2 Bastions. So it's not like I could have really done anything if he lived this turn anyway. So
Even a facade in the early game would have helped. That would have not only put the pressure on possibly killing more cards in his hand, but maybe if it did hit, that's the extra soul charge you might have needed.
yeah. Again, my hand was really just a bunch of Aldens and a bunch of Dark Strains, as you saw with me playing 3 Dark Strains in one turn. Definitely suboptimal, but I needed to push going second, especially since Final Rush is going to force my hand out the next turn anyway. And if I don't push then they're going to build too much hand for me to really, really go in during my PR turn. And so when he started sniping my Dark Strains, I obviously knew, like, I can let him take 2, but I can't let him take 3 because I discarded a Dark Strain earlier because I had all 4 in my hand. And so it definitely was like he made a really good play there, going after my rear guards, trying to deny my damage, and the heal unfortunately screwed me, right? Because if I was at 4, I could have double all them that turn instead of having to pop 3 Dark Strains. But unfortunately, like, you know, it happens. It's standard. So
yeah. I also want to ask, I guess we'll go back to your opening hand. So what was the opening hand that you had, and what did you mulligan into? I know that.
Yeah, so I kept a Dark Strain because
Okay.
I actually didn't ever want to be ever in a situation where I couldn't Dark Strain, and I
Okay.
kept Alden because obviously it's Alden, right?
Oh,
And so
Alden.
I kept those 2. I mulled everything back. I got a Bastion and 2 triggers, and I was like, this is fine. This is like very
Okay.
playable.
Alright.
And then so I pitched triggers early on to keep forming my hand, but I should have mulled the Dark Strain because I kept drawing Dark Strains.
Yeah.
But couldn't have known that, right? So
Okay.
I have one more question. As a Bruce player, you've probably had enough practice this game, not only this tournament, but also playtesting and all that. This is going to be a hard question, not in the sense of answering, but just because probably might not have tracked this data. But out of the times you use the grade 1's ability to look at the top card and call it the rear guard, how many times is it a trigger?
Roughly it's about half the time it's a trigger. Actually, oddly enough, round 1 of this tournament, I thought I was gonna lose. I was playing against Bruce. I checked the top card of my deck and it was the order. And so it just went straight to drop, and I'm like, well, this is terrible. And so I couldn't do anything, right? The whole deck is grade 3, so I can't call anything. So it's I started just swinging face, and then eventually I was able to stabilize and push, right? Because every turn was just unga bunga dash face. So it wasn't too bad. I couldn't persona ride, but I had Dark Strain live every turn. So it was at least 30k columns, and then 30k columns, and then with Refluke like a 40k with the Lepisto restanding, and then just multi-attacking out the wazoo. But ultimately, yeah, like I'm thinking next set, we're considering playtesting the Blaster Dark over the current ride chain. The current ride chain gives you a slightly better ceiling since you get a almost guaranteed +2. But the Blaster Dark counters Magnolia for those that are rushing you early on. And so you can wipe their board and try to get some early clears so that you can stave off for Bastion. And with the new order being only Counterblast 1, it also works out in terms of the Counterblast numbers because you're not only running Counterblast 2 cards across the board. So that's something that we're thinking about. Obviously, it's not formulated yet. It sounds great on paper. It could be awful in real life. We don't know. So it's definitely something to look out for, I think, with Bastion in set 2.
Where's the new triple rare from Bruce set 2 on that list? Is it kind of really considered, or is it one of those cards like maybe not?
I don't think we play it. It's not like it. Dark Strain already does it, and Dark Strain at 3 is pretty consistent. And not only that, you don't necessarily have crazy soul issues if as long as you're good about your Dark Strain plays. Obviously, if you're like me and just don't see your reflukes, GG Marie. But that's the game. But assuming that you play relatively optimally, the Dark Strains will come in. And although the new order is Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, which does eat into your soul slightly, because of the fact that it now gives you extra drives for consistency, it gives you the extra power to push, which means you don't need the boosters as much, and it gives you the auto draw on play of the order. It lets you kind of be more flexible with the way that your turns play out, and especially with the extra drive checks, it makes the grade 3 restanding capabilities way stronger, and it also makes Lepisto even more consistent if you have the CB for it. And Lepisto, if it goes off, is basically just a Bruce turn, right? And it's an even more powerful Bruce turn. And if it's with the over trigger, it's just over, right? It's it's 100 million power swing 3 times. You just can't do anything about that. So.
Yeah, it's always interesting seeing how with Bastion carving out the deck as Morikawa's lost love child descendant that just happens to have access to a full library of grade 3s. And throughout all the playtesting, I guess, were there any cards that you playtested that would say that you thought were great on paper, but then after the whole playtesting, you realized it fell flat, and vice versa, where is just say this doesn't look good, and realize, oh, I actually need this in my deck now.
Yeah, the first cards we play tested with a lot was Rooks. We were running Rooks at 4 because of the boost skill, and we realized it made the grade 3 restand extremely clunky, and we missed a lot, so we threw that out the gate.
Alright.
We threw the Witch out the gate, although Kai from WCC also played it in his Control Bastion deck. And if you're playing Control Bastion, it does make sense to play that card. Control Bastion requires a lot more cards in hand, but the thing is, in aggro, it was just completely unnecessary because it was a vanilla 13k on board, and you ran out of soul and you ran out of counterblast, as you could see. So that card didn't make as much sense. We were running draws initially. Fronts just made more sense there. I think it protects your rear guards. It gives you more pressure across the board. And lastly, Lepisto counts. Solemn, for example, only plays 1. At one point, I was testing 3. Right now, I'm using Kevin Cho's list. He plays 2. And so it kind of fluctuated back and forth between, do we want to play 3 order, or do we want to play 3 order or 2 order, 2/2 Lepisto, 1 order, 3 Lepisto, etc. But at the end of the day, I don't think that matters as much, but that was kind of the flex spot that we had.
Yeah, and it's good to have the flexibility. So, Albert, thank you so much for your time and digesting everything that is Bastion, especially with all the grade 3 playtesting. There's so much out there, especially for someone that's just getting into the deck. So, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one, everyone.